Hello and welcome to another video road test of a motorcycle. This time it's a Suzuki B-King, which I guess is mainly notorious for its rather challenging looks and also for the fact it's got a Hayabusa engine in it. Anyway, my bike is a 2008 model. I've had it around 2 years now and I've done around 12,000 miles on it, including a trip to Europe where I whizzed around the Alps and the Dolomites. Now it's a second bike for me, so it's not being used for regular commuting, although it does get used in towns and cities quite a bit. Now, when I picked it up and I was riding it home, I stopped at a petrol station and a little kid with his dad pointed at it and said, "Look, it's Judge Dredd's bike." Obviously, he then saw me a few seconds later and started crying with disappointment, but deep down the kid had absolutely pinpointed the reason why I wanted this bike. It looks insane, it's kind of brutal, it certainly polarises opinions, and it does go quite like a firework. So the engine is an excitable mix of massive power, torque, and an incredible appetite for revs. Above 8,000 it goes completely mad. It accelerates so quick that sometimes I simply can't reach the clutch and I feel myself being peeled off the back of the bike. In some ways that's to be expected, but also it's all just so wonderfully controllable and predictable. As an example of this, it's also a brilliant wet weather bike. Keep it below 6,000 revs and it's smooth, controllable and very, very assured. So, it's a big old thing with wide and relatively high handlebars. The suspension is relatively firm, but all of this makes it really easy to swing around bends. Now, really tight stuff can feel a bit like hard work, but usually that's because you tend to arrive way too quick. So it's not a light bike, and certainly you need an amount of conscious opposite lock to get it to turn and to stay in, but it's a lovely, predictable and stable handling bike. Okay, although I haven't been talking for too long, I think it's time for a beer. So this time around, I'm having a glass of Bomber, which is brewed by the Tempest Brewery, which is another local brewery of mine up over the border in Scotland. This one's particularly interesting because it's got like a really nice label, and this has been designed by a local designer, a very small person, but she's a local designer called Susanna Gibb. So if you see any of these bottles in the shops, go for it. So the beer it's pretty strong. It's like over 6%, but it has quite a light and fruity flavour. So it's more like a session IPA as opposed to what you'd normally expect. It's kind of delicate and refreshing, and comes in a real big bottle for sharing with people. But I've got no friends, so I don't have to. So I recommend it. Tempest Brewery, Bomber. It's really nice. Okay, so back to the Suzuki B-King. Let's face it, it's all about how it looks. So it's kind of got a brutal manga and transformer look about it. And, you could well imagine that the designer had had quite a heavy night on the sake, perhaps, in a Tokyo nightclub. And there's a bit of 1950s Art Deco streamliner in there as well, particularly at the front with the indicators. And yeah, it has to be said, there's big lumps of plastic bolted onto it for absolutely no reason at all, apart from design aesthetic. But, what's wrong with that? Especially if you've always wanted to be a robot, like I have. Anyway, the most peculiar thing to say is probably the fridge size width of the tank. It really does splay your legs out. But once you're there and you're slotted into position, you're not going to move. So it kind of feels really nice. Practical stuff then. So despite the size of the thing, the tank is pretty small at I think it's just over 16.5 litres. So going mad, it obviously drains pretty quick, but in touring mode on just a whiff of throttle, say doing about 85-90 miles an hour, you can get around 150 to a tank, which isn't too bad really. Personally, I find it really comfortable, but for me, comfort is driven by never having an aching neck, arms or wrists. And even on a 500-mile ride, the B-King never makes me ache unless it's above 90 miles an hour when the wind blast means you have to brace your legs, arms and thighs on just about anything you can grab onto. So aside from the obvious lack of weather protection, I found it a really great bike to tour on. Slap some throwovers over the back and you're sorted. Well, At least you are if you keep the standard exhaust, as the big silver canisters are just plastic, so they don't burn your luggage. So yeah, it's a comfortable and strangely practical bike. And I've got heated grips on mine because I'm a wimp, but you know, hey. So to sum up, it's different, it's kind of rare on the road, but it's also a very usable, exciting, reliable and very interesting motorcycle. It creates opinions that are either black or violently white. So, you know, despite the colour scheme, it most definitely isn't grey. And isn't that why we love motorbikes? Right, I'm going to go and I'm going to play Pokemon Go. So, cheery bye.